August is also the month we observe the Atlantic slave trade, especially the Middle Passage. From about 1518 to the mid-19th century, millions of Africans made the 21 to 90-day voyage across the Atlantic under harsh conditions to become enslaved in the Americas. Joining us to discuss the Middle Passage and some of the activities being planned by America's Black Holocaust Museum is historian Dr. Rob Smith. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here as always.
Absolutely. So first off, talk about what's important to know about the Middle Passage.
Well, you highlighted maybe the core issue, and that's the sheer volume. The numbers of human beings that were a part of this transatlantic process by which Africans of various nations, of various regions of West and West Central Africa then get moved not only to the United States, but across the Americas. And scholarship and research has found that initially we were thinking 12 to 15 million. Now that number has grown to somewhere between 15 and 20 million, keeping in mind that a significant percentage of these folks don't actually make it. And the notion that that many people were involved in that process teaches us a lot about the ways that that particular process reshapes the globe, reshapes economics, plays a central role in changing the fabric not only of West and West Central Africa, but also the Americas and other parts of the world. So it's a significant moment in human history, and one that we are continually learning about and need to learn more about.
So speaking of today, what strikes you the most about the Middle Passage as far as what you see as far as demographics, Black people all across the Americas? Yeah. What about that stands out?
Well, you know, the transatlantic process does give birth to what we call the African diaspora. Mm-hmm. And that's why certain regions of the world and certain regions of the Americas look the way they look. It's that African presence along with the European and indigenous presence that reshapes so many of these environments across the Americas. One thing I do want to share, though, is that the Middle Passage oftentimes gets associated with the boat ride. But we really need to back that up and start at the moment of capture or trade. At that moment, folks then have potentially hundreds of miles to walk to the coastline. And then at some point, they're held in what we call slave fortresses and could be moved along that West and West Central African coastline. And then they might board a ship to go somewhere other than their homeland, across the Atlantic, in various parts of the Americas. They might get moved in multiple ways across the Americas as well. So this is not just simply a boat ride. It's a much longer and even more arduous, disgusting journey. We've seen and heard various ways through documents, reenactments, films, documentaries, the experiences of folks aboard slave ships, the suffering, the violence, the sexual violence, the indignities that folks suffer, and yet somehow or another, people thrive, people survive, and they figure out a way to deal with this gruesome situation.
So how is America's Black Holocaust Museum observing these events here?
Well, we do on a regular basis. So our standing exhibits speak to this history. We train our griots and junior griots to be able to talk about and discuss and narrate this history, because if people can live through it, we can certainly learn about it and talk about it. But one of the things we're doing in August is highlighting the importance of not only the history of our founder, but the significance of racial violence. And we're doing so through a traveling exhibit called Unmasked, where we are engaging with artists, and artists have created renderings that speak to how they have interpreted this history of racial violence and lynching in the United States. So the exhibit, the traveling exhibit Unmasked, is going to be with us from August 7th through the middle of September, and we hope folks come out and really have an opportunity to see how artists play a significant role in helping us think through these tragic moments.
I want to go back and talk about what you described as far as the Middle Passage, a disgusting journey. What do the descendants of those who survived the Middle Passage, you see them, you see us every day, what do you see? What does that say about people who survived that?
You know, as much as we talk about slavery, slave trading, and understand the brutality of that system, one central feature is resistance. People resist. And resistance can simply mean surviving or thriving, making it through a particularly harsh, evil situation and system. What then begins to happen across the Americas is these folks who are enslaved people from various parts of the continent of Africa then start to reshape agricultural practices. They start to reshape cultural practices and deeply impact those cultural practices in those new environments. They begin to create communities and relationships with indigenous populations as well. And so that long-standing history, that the progeny, if you will, gives us a rich set of cultural tapestries that are very important as we think about what happens as folks move into the Americas.
Dr. Robert Smith, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.